Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I will be doing the Meet the Booktuber tag. I was tagged to do this video by the person who actually created the tag, which it still blows my mind that she created this tag. The questions are so good, and I will have her video linked down below. I'm talking about Christy from Grace-Filled Reads. She just recently started her channel and I discovered her fairly recently and I love her content. She's great. Please go check her out if you haven't yet. So I was tagged both by Christy and also by Sky to do this tag, and I'm really excited to answer each of the questions. They're all very interesting. And I realized that I never did the Booktube newbie tag when I started my channel. So you may not know too much about me, and I think this video is a really interesting way to share more about me. But yeah, let's just get started with question 1, which is how did you decide what genre you like / what you like to read? So I feel like it's a pretty basic answer and a lot of people could relate. It's basically just trial and error, trying out different books, different authors, figuring out what tropes I like, what I don't, and then you kind of narrow down, I guess, what you like more, what you don't like as much of. And I'm still in a journey, I would say, of figuring out what I really like and what I don't. I used to think classics were not for me until maybe 1 to 2 years ago, and I started reading classics, and now I have read over 100, which blows my mind. But yeah, it's just trial and error, trying out different subgenres and figuring out just what works for me, what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy. So that's basically how I figure out what I enjoy. And question 2 is what author is most like me? So there's no way that I can base this answer on an author's personality because I don't really know any authors personally, but I feel like my answer will make sense. And I would say it's Jamie Jo Wright. I feel like she seems to like delving deep into, I guess, like the darker side of humanity, while at the same time acknowledging, I guess, the light that comes from walking with Jesus. And yeah, I just really enjoy how she can do that. She can really get into the darker aspects of what it means to be a person, what it means to live on this earth, but there's always hope in her stories. I also really enjoy true crime and just things that showcase like what's wrong with humans. But at the same time, I like to have some hope. So Jamie Jo Wright, I think, would make the most sense. Question number 3 is, if you were stranded on an island, what book would you take? This one. This masterpiece of a book. This is the one. I think I've read this 5 or 6 times. I'm currently rereading it and I love it just as much. This book is just... I read it for the first time when I was 12, and looking back, I was definitely too young. There's a lot of violence, a lot of very disturbing things, but this book this is it for me. I will never get sick of it. I will always reread it, and if I was stranded, I would want this. Question 4 is, do you like buying books to read them or because they look pretty on your shelf? Can I say both? Because both. Honestly, for me, if I've never read a book before, I'm okay just getting a, I guess, like older edition or an edition that's not so aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't really matter to me, but if I really loved the book, then I definitely like to collect prettier editions of it. I don't really do that too much. I don't have like a ton of books where I have multiple editions. I'm honestly okay with like uglier books. It doesn't really matter to me as long as there's like a uniformity on my shelf. I like things to look nice and look pretty and organized, but I don't necessarily go out of my way to buy books just because they're pretty, if that makes any sense. Question 5 is an interesting one, and I'm actually going to be flipping it around a little bit. So the original question is, what book could you have read 10 years ago that would have changed your life? And it's kind of sad to say, but in the last few years, I haven't really read many life-changing books. So like I said, I'm going to flip this question around a little and share a book that I did read for the first time 11 years ago, actually, not 10, 11 years ago, but it did change my life. I mean, it's not a surprise, but yes, I'm going to use it again for another answer. I don't even care. This book changed my life. And if I had read it for the first time now as an adult, then this would have been the answer anyways for this question because wow. Literally 12-year-old Miriam hiding in her parents' room after school to read this book without my mom knowing because she thought I was too young to read it, and she was right, but it's okay. Honestly, I still appreciate the fact that I had a 12-year-old perspective on this book because in some ways it really helped me mature in my walk with God. I was definitely too young. But like to go from reading Geronimo Stilton, like short little 40-page books with a ton of illustrations, to reading this chunker. I don't get it, but it just happened, and here I am 11 years later. Question 6 is, if there were only 3 books in the world, what would they be? Or you can pick your top 3 genres. So I don't know if I'm understanding the question right, but I'm assuming it means like if I could only have 3 books at my disposal, what would they be? So I don't even care. This is one of them. Moving on. My second one, and just because of the comfort I feel when reading it, would be Little Women. Oh, Little Women. I need to read it again for Christmas. It's just, this is magic. I'm obsessed. And then the third book is one that I've never mentioned on my channel. I actually haven't read it for years, but I just looked through my Goodreads and was looking at some of the books that I read many years ago that I just don't talk about. And one of them is a nonfiction called God Will Not Fail You. I did lose my copy, which I'm so sad about. I'll have to get myself another one. But this book, I read it for the first time, I think at 13 or 14, and read it like every year throughout my teen years. And it's basically a memoir of a man named Samuel Doctorian and his time in Armenia as a young boy. I'm not sure if it was before World War II or after, but I'm pretty sure it was before. He was a young boy during World War II, and just his faith journey, living in a place where Orthodox Christianity was kind of frowned upon. And it's such a powerful story. Honestly, I could read this over and over again. I just need to actually get myself another copy. But yeah, if I had a voice in the wind, Little Women and this book, God Will Not Fail You, honestly, I would be happy. Maybe not fully content, because I do like to read new books, but if I had to choose, they would probably be my top 3. Question number 7 is, if you could write a book about anything, what would it be? So my answer might get a little weird, and I don't want to give the wrong impression or anything, but it would probably be a darker story with elements of faith, and it would probably involve a murder mystery. It would probably be historical fiction, either the Victorian era or the early 20th century. And yeah, I think it would just deal with like the darkness that comes with mental health, but then like having faith elements throughout. Does that sound like an author I previously mentioned in the video? Question 8 is, what character do you feel is most like you? So this is another very difficult question to answer. I don't know if any of you feel like this, but sometimes I really struggle to describe my personality. Like, I can be very eclectic. Anyways, I think my answer for this question is pretty unique, and I'm going with 4 different characters, but they are all sisters. I will be going with the March sisters from Little Women. So first we have Meg March, and I would say that my desires are pretty similar to hers. I did go through a season where I felt like I just wasn't happy in my current life circumstances, but at the end of the day, I would be content with like a more domestic kind of life, in the same way as Meg was. So definitely relate to her in that regard. And then there's Jo. I'm so much like her, just in the sense of, I guess, the desire to be like heard and understood and feel like our lives will amount to something, if you know what I mean. But I don't write. I'm not like her in the sense of I don't have the talent of writing stories or anything like that. But like, I relate to just how deep some of her longings are. And then there's Beth. I relate to her love of music so much. And Amy, her temperament all the way. And also her appreciation for art. She's definitely artistic. I am not. I can't even draw a stick person properly, so I'm not artistic at all. But I do appreciate art, so I can definitely relate to her in that regard. But yeah, mainly her temperament, I would say. Question number 9 is, how do you plan your booktube content? For me, it's nothing too fancy. I honestly just use the notes app on my phone, and whenever an idea strikes, I put it in. I do try planning out each month, but I don't stick to like a specific schedule or anything. I just kind of have ideas. I have videos that I definitely prioritize, and then if I have time or the inspiration hits or I'm tagged in something, then I will do it as well. But it's not like a set schedule that I have. It's just whatever I'm inspired to do in the moment, I guess. Question 10 is actually, I think, the hardest one for me to answer because I could have picked so many books for it. But the question is, if you were dying, what book would you read to the world? And this book that I'm going to mention, I don't think I've ever talked about on my channel. It is such a beautiful story. And I was really struggling between A Voice in the Wind, of course, or Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. But I chose a book that's very similar to Redeeming Love because it's actually a retelling of the exact same story, and that is Love in a Broken Vessel by Misu Andrews. This is all about Hosea and Gomer. They are the central characters in this book, and wow, this book. If you don't know the story of Hosea and Gomer, I would highly recommend looking it up. It is a very, very powerful story that just showcases what it means to have the love and the mercy that God has for his people. And yeah, this book just absolutely amazing. I truly believe that the world needs to hear the story of Hosea and Gomer. And honestly, many Bible stories speak to me, but this one speaks to me the most personally. So very similar to Redeeming Love. If you have read Redeeming Love, I would definitely recommend picking this one up, but beautiful story, absolutely love it. All right, everyone, so that is the Meet the Booktuber tag. I think it was a really fun tag. I enjoyed answering each question. And if you haven't done this tag, if you have not been tagged in it, consider yourselves tagged if you are interested in doing it. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each of you for taking time out of your day to listen to me ramble. It means so much, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye.